Hi, my name is Dominic, and I consider myself a music composer. And I was just going through my admin folder, and I picked out a song here, or a tune really, or melodic idea, I guess. And I'm just deciding into which category I should put this melodic idea. And I'm not very impressed with it really. And but in a way, it's kind of interesting because it maybe it underlies what's wrong with why we don't like certain compositions, you know. And this is the actual MIDI data, which is contained within this block of notes in this particular note lane for again the Steinway piano, which is what I like to compose on. And I'll just play this very quickly from the top. Okay, there's a little bridge section at the end. This is my right-hand marker, which marks the end of the loop, and I could click on the loop here, and it would go back to the beginning. And apart from the fact it sounds like an elephant has been playing this, obviously I did this on a tiny little keyboard in the other room, and I can't have much control of the dynamics, although it does have aftertouch. Um, and so these are all kind of a bit ropey looking. It goes up and down, and it should be nice and smooth, really, with proper crescendos and decrescendos. But never mind, we'll come to that later on. But my point here is I'm a little bit disappointed with this. It does have kind of like a folky, kind of sea shanty kind of feel to it. Um, but I can't help feeling that it sounds so stupid, but there's too many notes. Well, I mean, there's too like it's kind of jumping up and down, like this big kind of like between that and there's a big gap, you know. But I mean, I suppose it's all right, really. But is this one phrase? I mean, if you could draw, it seems like to me it's a bit too much for the brain to take in, really. Um, but I mean, if you just set the loop to 2 there, and I got my loop on. And you see there, you've got like one phrase or one sort of little idea going on there. And in a sense, you'd almost have to repeat that, maybe with a few variations. Um, because, it's like you sort of the ear's got to get used to things, really. I mean, as it is a good big glup of music, really. And you kind of it's too much to take in. Now that's kind of nice. You'd almost want to repeat that for a little bit and maybe put in some enharmonic changes in the chords, to sort of go down kind of pitches. So that it was kind of like it's the same phrase, but there's a kind of like an undercurrent of descending pitches on the bass line, as it were, and that might be quite effective. So that's definitely one phrase. So that's like a 2-bar phrase with a little bit of variation in it, and it goes back to the root note, which is there, and that's kind of nice. But then you've got like what's happening here. So you see, you've got to break it up into phrases. And if we take the next phrase, and we can set our left-hand marker to there. And that's going to repeat. And that's kind of okay, because that's a sort of variation of the first 2 bars. And although if it's going to go back, you'd want something else. You'd want that to go up or something like that. It's a bit of a jump, but it does go back. So, I mean, that's okay. But then it goes off into the sort of stratosphere around here. And I think, and there's like a little phrase there, where's that sort of going? It kind of like goes, jumps up, and we don't really like too much jumping around. And if that was and that's suppose, but I suppose when you break it down, you're teasing out the phrases that actually make up this. What is it? 21 bar piece. Oh no, well, not really, because it's a 20 bar piece actually. If you draw this in, so that's and that's a little tip here. Always make sure your notes come in to the end of the block, otherwise you run into problems later on when you repeat this. If you wanted to repeat this this whole 20 bars, it would jump on and it wouldn't be in time after that. So that's just one thing to bear in mind. So as you see, it's got some, I mean, taken as a whole, it's very sort of like, oh, there's too much for my ear to take, really, even though it's quite evocative. And there's actually quite a number of repeating phrases along the line. And you'd have to break these up. You'd break this piece up and really kind of like be careful about developing each phrase sort of separately and creating some left hand or bass interest or an accompaniment interest there. And generally kind of maybe speed the tempo up a little bit. I think it's a little bit slow as well. So bear in mind that tempo is very important. And the rhythmic kind of elements of this, it sort of has to sway, but it's a bit ponderous at the moment. So even though you can hear something and you think, oh, I don't know, it's too much for me to take in, it's a bit boring, it's rather boring, it just seems to go up and down all the time. But it's a bit like the sea, the ocean, the waves going up and down. So I suppose it has a sea shanty kind of a feel to it. But then when you do break down the whole thing into kind of like bite-sized pieces, into 2-bar lengths, it's actually not too bad, really. And you could develop, various sections, or at least up to there. That's kind of what I would call solid phrasing. And then after that it gets a bit ragged, although it's not as ragged as some of my pieces, which are really, which almost like, I mean, the sentence might be like, the cat sat on the mat. Well, that's a sentence, isn't it? It's got like a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a full stop at the end there. The cat sat on the mat. But if you have the cat sat on the, and you put a full stop after the, everybody would be waiting, well, what's it sitting on? What's going on? Like, the cat sat on the, what comes next? Like, the cat sat, I mean, even that's better, the cat sat on the. Imagine cat sat on, the cat sat on. It sounds like a cat was continuing to sit. Do you know what I mean? So be careful of music and sentences. Like, you wouldn't abuse English sentences like that. You wouldn't put full stops after anywhere. The cat sat, or the cat sat on, or the cat sat on the, which is the weakest sentence, isn't it? It's got to be sitting on something. The cat sat on the chair, on the mat, or whatever. And so it is with music. You've got to have a proper kind of like a sentence. It's got to kind of like a beginning, and it goes up here and it goes up a little bit more, and then it goes back down again, and it kind of settles back down again. Um, and that you could do something with. So when I actually broke all this up into its constituent parts, I suppose it began to make more sense. But when I listened to all of it, it was like, oh, this is a bit boring, isn't it? But it's at the wrong tempo. Should be a bit faster. But it does have a kind of a swaying kind of oceanic quality to it. And we just forget about the bit at the end, which is like a sort of like a little kind of up to there, a little kind of bridge section, which doesn't do anything really. So, it's just that sometimes you can be looking for a melody, you're looking for ideas, and something doesn't sound that good. If you break it down into its constituent sort of phrases, you could possibly use some of the phrases that are present in the melodic idea, and actually develop and expand them, and create a decent sounding piece of music from that. So that's really all I just wanted to say as I'm going through my admin this morning. Thank you very much for watching.